episode of The Gist is brought to you by Castlevania Lords of Shadow 2. Valentine's Day came and went, and while some of us spent it with our special someone, others weren't so lucky. Now, what I could do is do a gist episode on 5 real-world places where you can get into relationships with actual people. I'm not going to do that, but what I am going to do is tell you 5 video game characters that I'd like to date. Yep, let's get weird. I'm a light side white knight kind of gamer who's really bad at being bad, and unfortunately that's exactly what got in the way of my and FENRIS's budding relationship in Dragon Age 2. This is the only romance tree I remember looking up a guide for, a fact I now wish I hadn't publicized on the internet. But unfortunately it's human nature to take a bad boy or girl and try to change them, even, you know, in a video game. FENRIS fit pretty neatly into that category. He's an elven warrior who used to be a slave and is still pretty bitter about it, and hates being touched because of his lyrium-infused markings. Alright, so he's not a perfect pick. Despite that, FENRIS is pretty strong-minded, seriously tough, and really handy in a pinch if you can get him on side, or off side, since Dragon Age supports rival romances where hate blossoms into affection. Unfortunately, I couldn't get either of those options working for my protagonist, so on to the next one. As for the other end of the spectrum, and proving that I don't have a type, Mr. GUYBRUSH Threepwood Mighty Pirate might not be as undateable as you'd think. Alright, so he'd get me captured all the time and leave in the middle of the day to go insult sword fighting, but I challenge you to find a girl who doesn't like a guy who can make her laugh. GUYBRUSH is basically what I think they like to refer to as a fixer-upper. He's a little awkward and bumbling, but approaches on the side of charming rather than embarrassing. He's witty, adventurous, and most importantly, is totally loyal to his one true love. Trying to keep him alive could be a problem, but I'm pretty sure we'd work around it with some absurd point-and-click puzzle solving. Coming up third on my list is probably the best or the worst decision I could have made, because while BIOSHOCK's Elizabeth is lovely, she's also kind of a ball of danger. Putting aside the fact that we would be constantly pursued and the obvious daddy issues, I kind of like the idea of popping over to Paris at a moment's notice through a tear. Not to mention the fact that all the money she throws at me during our afternoon strolls could pretty much pay for all our dates. As a person, Elizabeth is highly literate, although potentially prone to PTSD from being all locked up in a tower, and she's loads of fun at musical events on PIERS. I may need to consider getting her some kind of GPS tracker for all of the inevitable running away, but I think getting to share her awesome wardrobe would be well worth the effort. And on top of that, she's super gorgeous, you know, for a video game character. Let's keep throwing that caveat in there and pretend it makes this video less weird. Landing in my second to last place and a serious contender for my favourite of all time is the adorable and awkward Alistair from Dragon Age. I've had more than one conversation with my female friends about their Dragon Age go-to romanceables, and while Liliana is pretty and Zevran has that roguish charm, Alistair seems to always be the favourite. He's compassionate as well as capable, but not even remotely in the know when it comes to romance. He tends to joke around, particularly to avoid being serious, and gets a wonderfully sweet and slightly awkward scene where he'll bring you a flower that he found as he starts to like you. He's your typical nice guy, proving once and for all that they sure can indeed finish first. If all of a sudden our universe did go all her and we could date fictional characters, then my obvious all-time go-to would definitely be LIARA from Mass Effect. Racism be damned, this is the 21st century and a woman and an alien should be able to date freely. I actually stuck with LIARA for my whole Mass Effect playthrough, even during the second installment, which she was hardly in. There was a lonely time for Alia Shepard. LIARA is damn near the best biotic in the game, perhaps excepting Jack, and she's an ASARI scientist and researcher. Brains and brawn aside, she's also only 106 and is one of the sweetest people who don't actually exist that you'll ever meet. ASARI like to sort of brain meld when they decide to go steady, which seems a little creepy from the outset, but if anybody's going to bring you around to it, then it'll be the softly spoken blue chick. With that all wrapped up, let me know who tops your dateable video game characters list either in the comments down below, or you can do so on my Twitter where I'm at Jess McDonell. Till then, I wish you all the luck in your fictional dating endeavors, and I'll see you next week.